Did you know that we have channel memberships now? If you'd like to help support this channel, get some exclusive Kawabana emotes to use in the comments, as well as an exclusive badge by your name, click that join button now to find out more. Every bit of support really helps. Thanks guys. In his second year of junior high, he went out with a friend to test their mettle at a famous local ghost spot, the long-abandoned Kanan Hospital in Imabari City. It was said you could see various ghosts lurking around the building, as well as hear footsteps when nobody else was around. Yet despite walking around the entire hospital, they didn't see nor even hear anything. It was simply a regular, decrepit old building. As they were making their way out, they discovered an old scalpel lying in front of the examination room. Thinking it might be an interesting souvenir of their trip, if nothing else, he decided to take it home. He was napping in his room when suddenly the phone rang. His mother answered, but before long she appeared at his door holding the phone. "It's a woman," she said, handing him the receiver before leaving. Nervously, he put the phone to his ear. "Hello?" "This is Kanan Hospital. You took home one of our scalpels. Please return it at once. Thank you very much." Nobody had been in the hospital other than his friend and himself. How on earth could anyone know that he took a scalpel home? Scared, he hung up the phone. Then, he immediately called his friend. "I just got a call from Kanan Hospital," he said the moment his friend answered. "They want me to return the scalpel." Even more frighteningly, it seemed that his friend had just received the exact same phone call. The two boys set out right away with the scalpel to return it to where it belonged. It's unknown exactly when Kanan Hospital was built. What we do know is that it was originally a silk mill located a roughly 30-minute walk from Iyo Tomita Station, and then it was converted into a hospital to treat tuberculosis patients. Because of this, the building didn't especially resemble a hospital, and it was immediately recognizable by its rather tall chimney. The earliest known records of the hospital being open are from 1967, so it was in operation from some time before then. And during the 1980s, a tennis court was built in the northeast area as well. And then, at some point in the 1980s or 90s, the hospital was closed. By the early 2000s, the building had long been left abandoned and was left in a rather poor state. Naturally, it didn't take long for rumours to spread that the creepy abandoned hospital that used to house tuberculosis patients was now haunted. And unlike other ghost spots, it became famous for one particular rumour. If you took anything from the building, then you would later get a call from the hospital asking for it to be returned. Stories began to spread through the internet in the early 2000s that if you visited the now abandoned building, then you might see the spirit of a dead patient beckoning to you somewhere inside. You might hear footsteps coming from empty halls and rooms. And in particular, if you went to the toilets on the second floor, then you might see the ghostly face of a man in the mirror. People also claimed that various doors would open and close all by themselves. Yet, the most fearsome haunting of all would occur if you took something home from the hospital. In particular, a scalpel or a patient's clinical records, many of which were left behind in the abandoned hospital. According to the legends, if you took something home, it wouldn't be long until you received a phone call, and the person on the other line would claim to be from Kanan Hospital. They would politely ask you to return the scalpel or medical file you took, and then hang up. If you didn't, then you'd end up getting the same disease as the patient whose file you stole. Or in the case of a scalpel, well, you can no doubt imagine for yourself what might happen there. According to some who lived in the area at the time, houses near the abandoned hospital were known to put protective charms on any doors or windows that happened to face the old building. It might or might not have been haunted, but why take the chance, right? Of course, these are simply rumours from long ago that can now be found on the internet, so whether that actually happened or not remains up for debate. Another popular rumour from the site is that if you visit it with a group of people for a test of courage, you might suddenly find an extra person or two in the group who wasn't there from the beginning. Someone you don't even realise wasn't supposed to be there. One story tells of a group of university students who visited the hospital to test their courage. One of the young women in the group found some stairs leading into the basement, so they decided to go down and check it out, with her in the lead. But once she opened the basement door, she screamed, causing her friends to flee in terror. Once they were all outside, they realized that their friend was no longer with them. But after doing a head count, they realized they were actually all there. Nobody was missing. Thinking about it even more, nobody there seemed to know who that woman was, or how she had joined their group. It was like she had always been there, and they had always known her. Naturally, none of them went back into the basement to check whether she was real or not. Another tale tells of a group of friends who visited the abandoned hospital in 2 cars. But by the time they got there, one of the women stated she had a headache and wasn't feeling well. Everyone was also frightened now that the real building was in front of them, so only 2 people ended up going inside. They went around the back and found a spot that they could enter through an old wooden bungalow, but some of the thick PVC piping that was used as a rain gutter started shaking, as though warning them to stay away. Inside, the building connected to the 2-story hospital, and they found all sorts of things scattered around, although not the medical records that were so famous. They did find protective charms pasted in numerous places, however, adding to the creepiness factor. They also found the stairs to the basement, but the area was pitch black, and a cold breeze seemed to be coming from there, so they weren't brave enough to check it out. They returned to their friends and then set off. However, as they were driving, those in the second car noticed smoke coming from the rear of the car in the lead. The car with the woman who said she didn't feel well. Before long, the car broke down and wouldn't start again. They had to hire a rental car to get back. They never did find out what was wrong with the car, but considering where they had just been, they found the situation creepy nevertheless. It's not hard to see how Canaan Hospital came to be regarded as a ghost spot. The building was abandoned sometime before internet usage became widespread, meaning that it was difficult to find information on it. Being that it used to be a silk mill that was converted into a hospital for tuberculosis patients, it had a rather unique, almost uncanny look. It was a hospital, and yet not. Left abandoned for nature to reclaim, yet still full of patient files, medical equipment, and the knowledge that numerous people had died in that very spot over the years. It would be weirder if the building wasn't considered to be haunted. The building was eventually destroyed in 2009, and if you believe the stories, naturally, it wasn't the smoothest destruction. Some even claimed the company that did it ended up going bankrupt, or out of business, but there is no evidence of that. They are, like much of the stories surrounding the former hospital, just rumours. In 2014, a retirement home was built on the newly empty land, and all signs of the former creepy hospital are now gone forever. Other than what remains on the internet, of course. But what did you guys think of this one? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you again next time.